multitask while the baby is sleeping, so I'm just having lunch while I chat to you guys about this last year of my 20s. I'm going to talk about getting married at 19, marriage, Nolly passing away, landing myself at almost 30 years old, and now being single. I don't know why I thought I was going to be able to eat and talk at the same time. So I've finished lunch, we can move on because I feel like I have a lot to cover and a lot of topics that I want to talk about in this vlog. So we're just going to jump straight into it and go all the way back to just before my relationship started. So I was born and raised into a Mormon family, LDS, Latter-day Saints. If you're not familiar with this religion, it is not uncommon to get married young. In fact, it's encouraged. So the men, when they turn 18, they are allowed to go on a 2-year service mission, and they're encouraged to go on the service mission where they are sent somewhere in the world, basically to recruit members into the church. And when they get back, they are strongly advised to find a wife and start a family. So if they go when they're 18, which is when they're allowed to go, I don't know if things have changed since I left the church, which was 5 years ago after my daughter passed away, but at the time it was 18 years old. They would get back when they are around 20, 21 years old, and that is what the kid's dad did. It's not as expected for the woman to go on a mission as it is for the men, but they are allowed to go if they want to, and if they don't, it's usually because they have found or they are finding a husband and wanting to start a family. So the kid's dad and I met when I was 17 or 18, I think, and then we got married when I was 19, just before I turned 20 years old. And this was not uncommon growing up in the LDS church. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think I was too young. I had been preparing for this moment my entire upbringing. From a very young age, I was taught to prepare myself as a woman to be a good wife and a good mother, but also encouraged to think about what it was that I was looking for in a husband, the sorts of things that I was taught to value. There are still things that I would value today, but there are also a lot of other things that I wish I had been encouraged to think about and consider in my life partner that I value now. So we got married really young, and then the next big thing to happen in our lives was that our daughter passed away. She was our first baby, our little girl, and she passed away at 2 months old to SIDS. That in itself tests a relationship big time. It didn't break ours though. It made our individual lives really difficult. I have spent my time since Noelle passed away finding reasons good enough to keep me here without her, and I found that in my children. The kid's dad has had his own struggles and his own way of dealing with Noelle having passed away. So individually, we have struggled big time in the last 5 years since Noelle, but together, our relationship, it didn't affect us immediately or intensely or in the way that you would expect, but now that we are separated 5 years after, it obviously chipped away at things slowly but surely. I wouldn't blame our separation on Noelle though. It just factors in the type of people that we became, the type of people that we are now, how we behaved in the years after she passed away. That is what affected our now separation. Understandably, I have been in survival mode. It's different though when you're in a relationship. You have someone else to fall back on, someone to support you and love you through the hard times. I think that is what happened for me, is that I really relied on the fact that I knew I had someone else to help me, because it's hard. It's really, really hard. And so I didn't try my best. I just did the bare minimum of what I felt I had to do to get through each day. When we separated, that changed because I didn't feel like I had someone else to help carry me through. I only had myself to rely on. In saying that, the kid's dad is as supportive as he wants to be and as supportive as he thinks he can be. In my mind, there is no expectation for him to be that for me anymore, and so I feel like I have to rely on myself, therefore I act accordingly. It put my grief for Noelle on hold because it was just too much to deal with. Losing a child, then losing a relationship, but also losing a future that I felt was set in stone. I had imagined that marriage and family was forever, and I did not expect to find myself at 29 years old. Well, I was 27 when we separated. We've been married for almost 8 years, like just off 8 years when we separated. So now I'm 29 and I have 3 children, and I did not expect to find myself here. Because of that, I didn't have the space to grieve for Noah Lee for a while. I had to put all of my focus into the logistics of being a single mum, and for a long time that was very tumultuous and had its ups and downs. We're nearing 1.5 years being separated, and it's starting to level out, where it's been steady for a good chunk of time now, that I feel like things are starting to set a pace. Like, I kind of know what to expect now. Having other children that need me is the purpose that I have to stay here in this life, and to resist that pull to be with Noah Lee. It's not just about being a mum though, it's about doing it well. And I feel like I've already done my children a disservice by being a grieving mother and bringing them into this world with a mother who is grieving her firstborn and will be for the rest of my life. So I feel like I try extra hard to be the best mum that I can, in a way that my grief will not affect their childhood. So I'm constantly chasing micro highs or micro joys to lift me up from below to try and get to neutral. I've talked about this before, but that is what I do, so that me in my natural state of grief does not impact the children. That's not to say that I'm trying to hide my grief. If anything, it's the exact opposite, because I constantly show them how we honor Noah Lee still, how she is important, and that it is okay to be sad, but I don't let that, or I try really hard not to let that impact my parenting or the kind of mum that I wanted to be if Noah Lee didn't pass away. On top of that, I feel so much disappointment in myself, having broken up the family, that their dad and I are not together anymore. I feel like the best thing for them is to have 2 parents together. And I know that in some situations when the relationship isn't a good one, that it can be better for 2 happy parents to be separated than to have 2 unhappy parents together, and for that to be what the children grow up around and what they see as a relationship, and then the expectations that they have for their own relationship. So it would be different if the kid's dad and I hated each other, or really couldn't stand each other, or if he was awful or if I was awful. It would make things so much easier decision wise if that were the case, but we're just not happy together anymore. It's not that we're not happy, like, it's not that we're unhappy with each other, if that makes sense. So I just feel like I'm letting the kids down. Like, it feels selfish, but at the same time, whenever I think about being with the kid's dad again, I feel like there is so much change that needs to happen, both for myself and for him, and then us together, for it to be a step forward, for it to be a positive thing for the children, for us to be together. But it's really sad, because he's still all of those values that I had been writing down as a little girl, all the things that I thought I wanted in a husband. He is still all of those things. I have love for and appreciate him so much, but I just think I've learnt, or I'm not as naive as I was back then. I've learnt more about myself and about what I feel like I need. And even saying that out loud, saying what I feel I need, feels really selfish, and it's a difficult thing to let that be a valid contribution to why we are still separated. Feeling all of this guilt about having separated the kids' family changed the way that I showed up in life, because I realized that no one else was going to do it for me, or no one else was going to support me through it. And so I had to, do better. I couldn't just do the bare minimum anymore. I had to show up for myself and for the children in bigger and better ways. And so all of my focus has gone on to that, and it has actually been a really positive change for me. Like, it actually snapped me back into putting effort into life, and that's been a good thing. It reminded me that I'm an individual, and I have since been, I guess, considering that in how I live my life. Like, I've actually been realizing that, Judea is not just a mum, she is an individual. How is she going to demonstrate to her children that their happiness matters, that what they want and what they need matters, and I need to demonstrate that for them. It is a really difficult thing to do as a newly postpartum single mum. The dynamic between the kids' dad and I has changed, or like it's been different as the kids have gotten older, because our youngest is only just about to turn 1 this month and Echo is only 3, so we separated before I had Eva. Being freshly postpartum, having a newborn is a really vulnerable time. The expectations around a separation and co-parenting, it just wasn't going to work for us at that early stage. That is also where things were most tumultuous for us, and if I were going to be co-parenting for myself, like if I was going to think, oh, what do I need from this co-parenting situation? 50-50 split, they come and pick up the kids and take them away, and then vice versa. That scenario, it makes sense in the way that I would be getting time away from the situation to really think and take care of myself. I'd be getting child-free time. The kids would be getting time with their dad. Our lives would be fully separate. Like, those are all positive things. However, the instability that would have on the children, the impact that it would have on both of our ability to bond with the children, the difficulty and impact that it would have on the way that Eva's like newborn phase went, as in her feeding and her sleep, it would just unnecessarily impact those things. We chose to put the children first for their space and their lives and their routine and their structure to stay the same, to take care of that so that they would feel safe. Their dad comes into my space and spends time with them. He obviously like takes the kids every now and then to go like to the park. It's not as if I never let him have the kids on his own. It's not about that at all. It's just that it makes more sense for him to come and spend time with them here or with me, and that's what happens majority of the time, because like kids' lives are not just a trip to the park or going for an activity or going out for an ice cream. Like, that is not a kid's life. A kid's life is morning routine, evening routine, nap times, feeding them. Like, those few things take a lot of time, and so it's better for their dad to be a part of their everyday life as well as the extras, obviously. But while that made it really difficult for us to really get a separate outside view on the situation for a really long time, it was what was best for the children and their stability. I was able to make sure that Eva got into a really good sleep routine. I was able to make sure that our feeding wasn't impacted as well. So those are all positive things and reasons why our co-parenting relationship is basically that we live apart, but we come together to do everything for the kids. They are obviously getting older now, and Eva doesn't need me the way that she did initially, but also I think the kids' dad and I are, you know, quite away from the initial separation and the heartbreak that came with that, and we've kind of like I'm just showing how tumultuous it was, and we've kind of like come here now where things seem to be pretty steady. There's no volatility, there's no like outbursts of emotions and yeah, all of that sort of stuff. So it just feels a lot smoother now, where we can start to implement his time, my time. At the moment, neither of us are involved with anyone else, and so we aren't having to factor that into how we are deciding to co-parent at the moment. But once that does become an eventuality, that will obviously change things. Right now we don't have to worry about it, so we're not co-parenting as if there were. But when that does happen, we will obviously have to change things. Honestly, not been on my mind at all, but it did kick into my mind recently because a couple of weeks someone did ask me out while I was walking home from the gym, and it kind of gave me a shock, and I was about to say no, and then I thought, why though? Why say no? I said yes, and then we didn't make it happen, because after I said that, and it was like there was nothing wrong with this guy, there was nothing wrong with the initial interaction that we had, but afterwards I realized that I can be picky. Like I don't need a man in my life, and to be quite frank, I don't want one right now. And the type of man that I would want to come into my life would be the type of man where I just could not say no to him. Like, it would need to be someone where I'm like, I really want to get to know you. I am really interested in you. Like, okay, I'm going to dedicate some time to you. It's not going to be like in this scenario where I was like, oh, I should just give it a chance. No, I don't need that. When I think about dating, I think about the impact that it'll have on the amount of time that I have to give to my children, but also the time that I do get away from them is very precious. There's not a lot of it, and there is a lot that I want to do in that time. Longer Noah Lee visits, go to appointments if I need to, just have some literal downtime where I do not have to think and I do not have to engage with other people. And so it would need to be someone special, someone that I was really interested in for whatever reason, that I was going to start dating again. I feel like this time round I do have very high standards, but are they high standards if you can meet them yourself? I don't think so. So I have good standards, and I just feel like if I don't need it and I don't want it, then I'm just not going to sacrifice my time. I'm not going to waste my energy. I'm not going to waste my kids' time. I feel like at this age there's kind of this expectation, you know, that you would have the family, that you would have the children. I had that, and now I feel like I'm starting again, given that I married the first man that I dated, that I have no experience, literally no experience with dating. And that could be very scary if it was something that I felt I needed for me to be happy, but I don't. I'm quite content with this final year of my 20s being my loading year. This is what I'm calling it. You know, when a computer is still loading, but it's not like it hasn't turned on yet or whatever. That's what I'm allowing myself to be this year, is just loading. I'm just taking my time to load up. I'm not putting any pressure on myself. I'm actually really looking forward to my 30s because I feel like at that point I will have had the time that I have needed to give my focus and give my energy to this separation and the changes in my life in the future that I thought I was going to have. By the time I hit 30, it should be time to just like actually start taking steps forward again. Start making choices, start making decisions. I hate doing that. I'm probably one of the most indecisive people that you will ever meet. It is not doing things that makes me stressed, I think. It's actually the decision-making process of doing things. Like, yeah, the simplest thing to decide stresses me out. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this little chit chat, and I will see you guys next time.